impression of him than he was at that time.
Well, at the time I thought it was a bit over the top, but he's got more and more sort of over the top as the show's going on, so it's almost getting a bit mild, really, that.
Now, I know that you bridle at being described as an impressionist. You're an actor,
yes,
and a writer, and you want to direct and produce.
Multi-talented genius is that's what I'm
but,
happy
I mean,
with.
The
really.
ability to capture people like that it's a God-given gift, isn't it?
What am I to say to that?
But, I mean, it is, isn't it?
Well, it is, I suppose, yes, yes.
How did you, I mean, did you watch hours of tapes of him
Well,
doing
we
it?
didn't have much, but I watched them again and again and again and watched his gestures. And the hardest thing about him is to work out exactly where he comes from, because he's got a sort of a media-type voice, you know, which really comes from nowhere. You know, it's got no sort of region to it.
Is that important, that you've got to find out?
Very important, yes. And then I just watched him a lot, and he's a rather large chap like myself, and he tends to wobble a lot, and I just watched him and did it again and again.
But he's short as well, isn't he?
He is. He did.
No, you're not short.
I had to have several vertebrae removed to do that. Impersonations, as a matter of fact. Enormous expense.
Now, you know, at the beginning of the show, you did an impression. In fact,
yes.
I mean, what did you do? I mean, I don't know that it was an impression of Bob Goya.
Well, it's easy for me because I am west of Scotland as well, you see, and he is as well. But he's got a bit more of that sort of nasal transatlantic media twang. Hi. Put that gun away, it doesn't suit you. And
well, I mean, but it sounded like a disc jockey, like a radio disc jockey,
yes,
rather than...
Yes, well, it was much too fast because he's actually very laid back. And, yes, it was too speedy, I think.
Because, you see, when in conversation with you, you're going into impressions of people right, left, and centre. You 1 minute you're Ian Paisley, and the next you're Marlon Brando, and the next you're Orson Welles. Do you do that in almost a sort of involuntary way?
Well, yes, I always used to before they started paying me for it. I used to do it the whole time. But now I'm a bit more selective, you see.
Now, does it help to have hate? You know, if you're
yes.
targeting on someone that you find detestable,
yes.
views you find detestable, let us say, is it easier to do that than perhaps sending up someone for whom you have an affection?
Well, I'd say it splits directly down the middle. I mean, if you really, really admire somebody, like I really admire Brando and I really admire Wells, then you want to be like them, so you want to get them right. If you follow me, like if you watch Wells and people like that, I mean, you just think, my God, he's so good, I'd love to be that good. But then with other people, who I wouldn't mention any names, but I think you know who I'm talking about. Obviously you just want to make them appear as stupid to everyone else as they appear to you.
Now that's interesting because the Reverend Ian Paisley is a physically very impressive man. He's a big man.
He's a big lad.
He's got tremendous presence in a pulpit or on a platform. But he also puts the frights up people, doesn't he?
He does, yes. Well, I mean, he's like all the sort of great firebrand boys. He represents, you know, God and the devil at the same time, if you know what I mean. And
do you work on him? Do you watch a great deal of film of him before you do it?
There isn't a great... well, with Paisley's always been with me, I'm sorry to say. I didn't really have to watch much of him because his gestures are very easy to pick up. He closes his eyes a great deal when he's speaking and said, of course, I never said any such thing. He's always leaning forward and putting his eyebrows about and shaking his jaw when he's angry. You know, he's quite easy.
Now, a great deal of what you do in, for example, Kick Up the 80s and in The Young Ones, you have a very aggressive persona on the screen. You shout at the camera better than anyone I know.
What?
Because I mean, you're the gentlest of fellows. I mean, is that part of the Glasgow, the West of Scotland inheritance?
I don't know.
Because I remember Billy Connolly saying it often confused people.
Yes.
In Glasgow, people said hello to you in a friendly way, and you thought,
yes,
my God,
that's
you know
right. Well, I was talking to some Glasgow actor the other day in London, and I was saying that having a Glasgow accent is like having a loaded gun when you go to a bar in London. Because you say, well, hello, Terry, do you fancy, you know, hello, Terry, hello, all right, Jim? Don't mind if I do. And you go, excuse me, you can have a pint of heavy. And it's suddenly you're on your own, you know. Yeah.
It's like that. You remember that wonderful thing that Billy Connolly did in Not a 9 O'Clock News, where he came in and he started asking about all the hard man.
Hard man, McNulty and all that.
And then he switched.
Well, he does all that. I don't know if you... I shouldn't be doing Connolly's material. But he does this whole thing where he goes, as Hatchet McNulty in. No. There's Machine Gun O'Hooligan in, and he goes on like that for hours, and then eventually the guy says no to them all, and he says, well, if I can get this, I'll have a Campari and soda.
You see, I don't know why it is,
but
somebody doing a Glasgow gay is funnier
yes.
than a gay from anywhere else, in my view.
Yes, it is. Well, it's just so unexpected, really.
Because in among all this sort of...
It's my time, it's like, I mean, you know, I don't think Glaswegians are any more aggressive than anyone else. I think it's just the accent. But it is true when you hear somebody say, "Excuse me, George, can you pass us that handbag?" It is funny. Well, it's not funny. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not being anti-gay. I'm just saying that it is funny because it's unexpected.
Because in all that you do, in all the work that I see you do, you are acting. You know, it's a role that you're playing. You often have to bone it up at great speed because most of the work that you do on television is done at a terrific rate. You may play half a dozen different characters.
Yes.
How difficult is that to get someone locked into your system?
Well, it's the old thing, isn't it? I mean, obviously you have to rehearse it so that you are confident that you're on top of it, that you're going to be believable, and then you have to perform it in such a way that you believe it. I was trying to think, who was it said the other day? It was probably Spencer Tracy, I think it was, said that if you believe it, other people will. And I think that's true.
You've got to have that belief in it.
Yes, because there are some performers, and I will not mention their names, because it's not the time of the place, but there are some performers who you think have got a bag of, they're doing tricks, they're doing their party piece. They haven't really centered themselves emotionally on the part. Sounds incredibly pretentious, doesn't it? It's a real New York school, you know. I mean, you have to be that tree, Donny, do you know what I'm saying? You know.
Before we look at a piece of that acting, just do us a quick burst of your Orson Welles.
Orson Welles, my God. What shall I say? Is that whole piece from Holly? The thing that a lot of people get wrong about Orson Welles is he says something very quickly, and then he throws the whole rest of the sentence away so you don't hear it, and then he comes back. You know, and he goes, Holly, he realizes the worst place in the world to be, Vienna. 1948, what's the matter with you? And but he's better known for his very sort of, you know, it's very breathy, you know, probably the best lager in the world.
Well, that's great stuff. Now we're going to look at a bit of acting. It's from Kick Out the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of saloon bar fascist that you meet all over Scotland and all over Britain. But particularly in Scotland, you meet characters like this who say the most outrageous things.
I formed a football team and they want to get into the Football League. Christ almighty, they've got Queen's Park Rangers already in the league. What else do the stupid bitches want? Don't get me wrong, though. No, I'm not a male chauvinist pig. Far from it, as you know, Alec. No, if my wife wants to become an airline pilot and fly all the way around the world, that's fine. Just so long as my dinner's on the table when I get back from the pub. I'll tell you, Bob, seriously, I'll tell you what makes my blood boil. All these bloody feminists want to be called Ms. Huh? Ms. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's bloody feminist. I don't know why they don't just go, excuse me, I hope they don't, I just wonder sometimes why they don't just go the whole hog and call themselves Mister. They're all bloody lesbians anyway. And have you noticed how ugly most of them are? Dear God. Most of them could never find themselves a husbands. What do? Go and stay and squalor in some camp and talk about their fundamental ideals, which, I may say, include a world without men. Ha! It's all going to be women and sperm banks and Tupperware parties or something. No, I'm sorry, Alec. I think a woman's place is in the home and not marching about with their breasts hanging around like Ruth Tyler's nail bags. All a bunch of shapeless boilers anyway. I think I'll have another pint, please, Jim, if you don't mind. Thank you.
I've met a few people like that in my time.
Yeah, there's plenty of them about. Yeah.
Far too many around, isn't there?
Yeah.
But it's the observation of characters like that makes it so exciting, that people recognize them and feel he got it right.
Yes, I think so. It's very good writing as well. That's
great writing.
I really wrote that.
Well, I hope you'll come back and see us again. Good luck with all you do. It's great to hear you talking about the way you do your wonderful stuff. Robbie Coltrane, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.